Big 3 first came on my radar because of Ice Cube. How cool is it working with him?
And I'm just like soaking it all up, man. This is a guy who I grew up listening to as a kid. This is a guy I grew up watching his movies and still do today. And so that's where I become like fanboy.
How are you enjoying the freedom?
You're dealing with players who might have had egos back in the day. You're dealing with players who might not have given you the time of day back in the day in the NBA. Now you're dealing with players who are mature. You know, they're mature men, they're husbands, they're fathers, and they've been through things.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Chris Haynes, one of the most recognizable voices in the game of basketball. Chris, very nice to see you. I want to start at the beginning. How did you fall in love with this game? How did you get into this?
Man, I think just from having some friends at an early age they were into playing hoops before I was. You know, I didn't really start playing basketball until my freshman year of high school. But I started dabbling in it probably around junior high, so 7th or 8th grade. But once I got into it, man, and it was just it was contagious from there. And, you know, you dream of. I grew up in the era in the early '90s where Michael Jordan was the guy, and so it was just, you know, I was just fortunate enough to be able to watch him as a kid and watch those great NBA games that used to come on NBC in the '90s. Man, it gives you goosebumps just thinking about um, those games, those teams, and I really do feel like that was one of the golden eras of NBA basketball, the '90s and the Michael Jordan era. So that's how I kind of fell in love with basketball, and you know, I took it from high school, and I took it to, you know, playing college ball, getting a scholarship that way, and I always wanted to continue to be around the game. And so I was, you know, fortunate enough to later on to be able to cover the NBA as a reporter. Wasn't good enough to make it as a player, but I wouldn't change my path at all, for sure.
Nowadays, players are bigger brands, bigger stars than ever before. And we've seen the rise of athlete-driven media as well. How does that impact the storytelling in the Big 3?
Well, you know, I would say this. Most of the guys who play in the Big Three had NBA careers, and I've covered all of them. And you know, I've been covering the NBA. This will be my 16th year, I believe, covering the NBA this upcoming season. So the Joe Johnsons, the Michael Beasley, Lance Stevensons, the Jordan Crawfords, the list goes on and on and on. I've covered these guys and already had pre-existing relationships with them. And so it's been fun to be able to cover them on this side. You know, this is a stage where Ice Cube and Jeff, you know, the co-owners of the Big Three, where they've given a platform to guys who the NBA might be done with them, but these are guys who still have a lot of basketball left in them. And the only way that they can showcase their skills would be overseas. And then, you know, for you go overseas, nobody in the States really follows you. You know, you don't get to catch the games. And so he's giving guys a second stage of having a professional career and doing it on a national stage, on a national platform, being CBS, and, you know, doing it here in the States. And so it's been really cool to cover them. And also, you know, sometimes, you know, when guys are in the NBA, they might be a little full of themselves, right? They're young and they think that they're going to be NBA players forever. And, you know, I think, you know, once you get out of the NBA, you may become a little more humble, because the bright lights aren't there. You know, you don't have people clamoring to you like you used to. And I see like guys that I might have had rocky relationships with in the past. You know, they're just much more mature now, and they're grateful and thankful for the opportunity that they have now, and they're more easily and available and ready to talk. And so I've just appreciated, you know, covering these guys in the second stage of their career. It's been a really fun experience, and I've been able to, you know, gather some really good tidbits for stories.
What's that like, seeing that different energy from players? Because you got to manage so many big egos, and being a basketball guy, that must help so much, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, it's cool just to see the maturation of them as men. Let alone basketball players, but just as men, just being able to see how they've matured. These are guys who they've been around, like Michael Beasley, who I do the podcast with, the 3-and-1s podcast. Myself, Michael Beasley, and on occasion Ice Cube. Beasley's sharing some really insightful, and he's being really insightful stories, and he's being really vulnerable. And when he speaks on what he's gone through, not just in his NBA career, but even as an adolescent coming up, he's a really, he's a guy who's been through a ton. And I'm proud of him for speaking out in some of these stories that he's detailing, because he doesn't have to go there. Uh, Sorry for that sound. I'm actually at my wife's beauty salon store, so I'm doing this for this. So that was a customer that no customer that walked into the store. So I apologize for that. But I just been appreciative of his commitment to the podcast and his willingness to go deep and to tell stories that probably explain him a little bit more so than people are familiar with. And I just, it's been a ball, man. I'm having fun. The action is more rugged and raw. You don't have the ticky tack foul that you may have in the NBA. So it's a different brand, a more physical brand of basketball in the Big Three. And so sometimes tempers flare, and we've seen that a few times. And it's been fun, man. You never know what to expect.
Big Three first came on my radar because of Ice Cube. How cool is it working with him and the energy he brings? Because you look at his career and everything that he's done, bringing it to basketball, how exciting is that? And what do you expect from him?
Listen, I've been covering NBA players for 16 years, right? And I would say, like, my first year, I was very excited about seeing LeBron for the first time, seeing Dwayne Wade. Before I started covering the NBA, Dwayne Wade was my favorite player. So seeing Dwayne Wade, seeing Kobe, the list goes on and on. But that wears off. After a while, you're seeing everybody every day, and you realize, these guys are just they're human beings. They're 6'6", 6'10" human beings. But they're just guys who you may see on TV, and so athletes do nothing for me. Nothing for me. You got friends. They always ask you, man, what is it like being around such and such? This star, this star. I'm like, man, it's normal, normal. Like I don't. There's no excitement there. But when it comes to my favorite actor, favorite actress, my favorite rapper, my favorite crooner, my favorite R&B soloist or group, that's where I become fanboy. And so working with Ice like that has like seeing how he walks into the room. So when we're doing our podcast or show, you would think that he would just come and just sit down and get ready to do our show. Sorry about that again. That's either a customer coming or a customer leaving. So but when Ice Cube walks into the room, he goes straight for the cameras. He said, okay, I want a wide shot here. Here. All right, give me a single shot. Give me a double shot. Make sure you pan it down a little bit. Go here. And can you turn those lights up? But like he does all of that. And I'm just like soaking it all up, man. This is a guy who I grew up listening to as a kid. This is a guy I grew up watching his movies and still do today. And so that's where I become like fanboy, where it's really hard to believe I'm working side by side and close with Cube. So that's been really special for me, man. And I was thankful that they asked me to come on and be their sideline reporter for this season 8, which happens to be the most anticipated season 8, where you have these big name players join the league for the first time, and Dwight Howard, Lance Stevenson, and Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Johnson. Kemba Walker was supposed to get in, but I was told, little nagging injuries, so he had to decommit. And, you got Joe Johnson, who's been a guy over the last few years, has been the face of the league. So it's been, I was really thrilled when they asked me to do it, And so I haven't looked back, man. It's been a fun experience.
What made you want to bring your storytelling to Big Three, and how are you enjoying the freedom to select which stories and which players to highlight?
Look, it was a privilege. I did it because I've been following the Big Three ever since they started 8 years ago. And so I've covered some games. I went to, I wrote some stories on some games. I wrote some stories about the league. And throughout the 8 season, I've broken news on the Big Three. So the Big Three was aware of my presence. And, they appreciated my presence to have somebody mainstream um, give them a chance, give them an opportunity to get some national exposure. And I played in their Big Three celebrity game. I want to say it was about 4 years ago. And so it was a natural connection. It was a natural fit, once they asked me to come on board this season. So, but from the story standpoint, again, like you're dealing with players who might have had egos back in the day. You're dealing with players who might not have given you the time of day back in the day in NBA. To you now, you're dealing with players who are mature. They are mature men. They are husbands. They're fathers, and they've been through things, and they have a different perspective on life. And when you have guys like that are ready and forthcoming and willing to kind of share their stories to help others, man, that's a reporter's dream right there. When you have an open player who has a story and is more forthcoming to tell, and that's what you're dealing with the Big Three, man. There's no egos, man. I mean, I've had players come up to me and said, "Man, hey, bro, thank you for coming in and working with the Big Three. You kind of you're legitimizing this league, and you're legitimizing my presence in this league by having you here." So I appreciate that, man. Michael Beasley has said that. Lance Stevenson has said that. Ice Cube has said that to me personally, and he's also said that on the record. There's a video out, Cube saying that. So that means a lot to me because I like covering. I like covering. I do like covering basketball, but I got into the game because I love people. And I love telling the stories of especially people who've been through things and they're willing to share stories because stories are ultimately they're supposed to help others. They're supposed to um, kind of garner some emotions, elicit some emotions, and you know, and garner some motivation to where it's going to benefit the youngsters coming up who might be playing or someone who might be going through something similar just in life in general. So when you got guys like that who are ready, that's a reporter's dream.
It's cool to see the partnership with Vice TV. I grew up with Vice. Are you seeing more interesting partnerships, more different brands and companies wanting to come on board?
Yeah, and that's this is my first time. I've with CBS as well. I've never been on CBS Airways, and so this is my first time having a relationship with CBS and Vice. And see, you're a younger generation. Vice is Vice. I'm 42, 43, I should say. So Vice is something that's new to me, but I understand like it has a younger demographic, and ultimately that's what you want to reach. When you're a league, it's 8 years in existence. That might sound old, but that's still very, very new. You have to reach a new demographic. You have to reach the younger demographic. And so, with that being said, I've had a joy working with the people at Vice, and they've accepted me, and it's been a good working relationship. And so that's something that Cube, he's always trying to think years and years ahead as far as like how can we promote the game to the younger viewers, because ultimately I think Cube have to say it himself, but it's not just a league that's for um, retired NBA players. Now, obviously, if you got a retired NBA player who still has a lot of game left, yeah, the Big Three wants you. But this is a league. This is a tough league. The players who played in the Big Three in the first couple of years, they wouldn't make it in the Big Three now. There were different rules back then. You can't quote me, but I believe there was a certain age limit back then. Now there's no age limit. So it's the top. If you're a top guy, you got an opportunity to play in the Big Three. And so this Big Three and working with Vice, it's all about trying to reach that next generation.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it already, but how do you reach out to the kids and the OGs as well?
Yeah, they have the Big Three have as far when you're talking about the youth, a day before or maybe 2 days before the games. The games are either on a Saturday or a Sunday. So about 2 days before the game days, the Big Three is already in town. Whatever city that is, they're already in town. They have a camp. I believe it's called the Young Threes, and that camp is for youngsters, little kid, elementary, maybe junior high, maybe some high school, but I think it's primarily elementary, junior high school students. And the Big Three throws a camp, and I believe whatever team that whatever home city we're in at that time, I think it's those players. They host the camp. And so that's all about exposure and getting the word out about the Big Three League and getting kids excited early on about the potential of being a professional basketball player in the NBA or the Big Three. So that's a way of reaching out to the community, exposing them to another brand of basketball. And also for the older generation, like, so you want to, you might have had guys in the past who had stellar NBA careers and then they retired and they felt like they couldn't play in the Big Three. Maybe that was beneath them. But now when you see a guy like Dwight Howard, who's going into the Hall of Fame this summer, when you see him make the commitment and play in the Big Three, when you see a guy like Lance Stevenson, who talent-wise, he should be in the NBA. But this league is about being younger and there's a lot of politics that go into it. And so, but when you have guys commit like that to the Big Three, it gives it some legitimacy that this is not just a retired NBA fallback spot. This is a league where you can play at in the States, you could be on national TV, and you can extend your career. And so I think those are kind of the awesome outlooks that the Big Three possesses when you're talking about reaching out to the youth and reaching out to someone who may be my age or a little bit younger.
Which moments stand out to you so far that you think go down as iconic, and how do you try and add to those moments?
Well, they might not want me to admit this, but my first week on the job, sideline reporting, week one, it was the Dwight Howard Lance Stevenson brawl that got into the stands. And before that happened, there was already some other confrontations, altercations. It was Jordan Crawford and Lance Stevenson before that. And Jordan Crawford poked in his nose, Lance Stevenson pushed him, and they had to be separated. Then after that, Steven Jackson got into it with a player, and they had to be pulled back. And then the last game, I saw Gary Payton going ripping the refs. Like, yeah, I can't even say what he was saying. Like, Gary Payton was going off on the refs. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is only week one. This is what it's going to be like. Like, golly. And so it was. It hasn't been like that every week. You've had some confrontations, altercations every now and then, but that happens. Like, because this is not a ticky tack foul league, so you're going to elicit guys being mad, being frustrated from not getting calls, and they're taking it out on their opponents or they're taking it out on the refs. And so you're going to have those confrontations. And for the most part, it's been a small altercation, and you break it up. So it hasn't been anything big or insignificant. Maybe the Dwight Howard Lance, because it spilled over into the stands. Maybe that was a little bit too much. And so they received a warning because they were rookies. They're 35-year-old or 39-year-old rookies. And so they received a warning for just being given a pass, because you got to get used to the style of play in the Big Three. But that was the moment that stuck out to me because I was like, wow, is this what it's going to be like each week? And so it was a fun. That was kind of like my welcome to the Big Three moment.
Much like the NBA Big Three, it celebrates culture, music, fashion. How do you see that being celebrated, and how do you emphasize that?
I think the Big Three does a good job of emphasizing it just based off of the players. They have cams on the players. Michael Beasley, I would say probably is the sharpest experimental dresser in the Big Three. Like he ain't that much younger than me. But I look at him like he gets on me about my clothes, about what I'm wearing. I'm looking at him like, man, that's cool nowadays. But every now and then he'll throw some things. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. But the Big Three is the culture. It is us. And so, you got guys who Nick Young. Nick Young is another one. Like, but that's LA guys. LA guys, they have a unique experimental dressing style. And so Nick Young will come with some big baggy pants, corduroy pants, no belt on, and he's holding his pants up the whole time. And with those big baggy pants, he'll have this little shirt on. And I'm like, how does that match? Like, I don't get it. And so, but that's the culture, that's the style. And they're allowed to, they're given the opportunity to share that style now because maybe they don't have the limelight anymore. And that was the unfortunate side for athletes in prior days. Aside from just the league, guys can now have their own podcasts where they can stay relevant and become stars doing it that way. Because prior, unless you were a superstar, your career was done. It was done. And so you have to think about like if you've been able to play a full career, like so if you play 10-year NBA career, you're probably what 31, 32, and then your career is over. And then you're again, unless you're a superstar player, you're forgotten. Now what are you gonna do? Now what are you gonna do with the rest of your life? So again, the Big Three, you still can't play the Big Three for the rest of your life, but it extends your career where when you're at this stage in life, you should be thinking more about, okay, now I might not have done everything the right way. I might not have prepared myself post basketball the way I should when I was with the NBA. Now I'm giving another second chance. I'm giving a little bit longer leash to be able to think about, okay, what am I going to do after the Big Three? Look at Michael Beasley, man. He got sponsorship deals now, man. He's his clips for our podcast, they go viral, man. He's giving himself a second leash, man, a second life, man. So I'm happy for him, happy for all the other guys. And we've had guys who come to the Big Three and who get signed by an NBA team. So the NBA dream is not necessarily over. So it's just been cool being able to see guys get a leash on life in basketball.
What's one of the wildest things you ever saw or happened to you in the NBA that shaped you as a storyteller that you're able to bring here now with all your experience to Big Three?
I would say it's more of a serious it's more of a serious it's more of a serious story, but it definitely helped shape and tighten up my grip on how to report and the checks and balances that are needed to fully flush out a report. This was my second year in the league, and before I tell this whole story, I want to say how grateful I was for Mo Williams, who I covered in Portland when he was with the Portland Trailblazers. I covered him with the Cleveland Cavaliers when he won a championship with the Cavs 2016. He was a part of that team that came back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Golden State Warriors. Mo Williams was a bona fide, I believe he made an all-star team in his career. Mo Williams, I'm so grateful for him for giving me grace. So with that, I'll say what happened. So it's about my second year in the league, and I'm a newsbreaker. That's what I do. But I would say I was a little bit too anxious back then. I was a little bit too aggressive. Didn't go through the proper channels of vetting something all the way through. So this season, this is my second year covering the Blazers. Mo Williams is on the team. We knew that he had a sister who was ill. We knew that. We knew that for weeks. And we knew at some point that he would have to go back home, I believe Alabama, but he would have to go back home to be with his family. knew that was going to happen. Like he would have to go back home to be with his family to be there for his sister who was ill. So we've known that for weeks. We're in Indiana. The Blazers are having a practice. It's the day before the game. They're having a practice at the arena. And I get a call from someone who travels with the Blazers. It's someone who works for the Blazers. He travels to every game with the players. I get a call saying that, hey, I'm at the hotel here, and this person stays at the same hotel with the players. They say, hey, I got something for you. Mo Williams just left the hotel. He's going back to Alabama. His sister passed. So he just left. He's not going to play tomorrow's game. Just left. So this is a guy I trust. He wouldn't lead me on. He wouldn't lead me astray. He travels with the team. He stays at the stays where the team stays. So I reported that Mo Williams has left Indiana due to the passing of his sister. Right. So I put that out. About 5 minutes later, so I'm at the arena while I'm doing this. They got the media waiting in the concourse area to open, so we got to wait till the practice ends so then we can go in there and ask players questions. So about 5 minutes after I report this, Twitter is fairly new, a couple years in. The head PR guy at the time for the Blazers, Jim Taylor, comes in and he said, Chris, come with me. He tells me that in front of everybody. I'm thinking he's mad that I reported it. That's the extent I'm thinking. So he pulls me to the side. He said, Chris, Mo Williams' sister did not pass. He just wanted to go there to be with her and be with family. She did not pass. I'm like, oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness. So I go and delete it and I put a, retraction. Sorry, she did not pass, blah, blah, blah. He had to go be with family, but she did not pass. And I'm getting, social media. I'm getting ripped, social media, rightfully so. And so then practice opens up. So now we got to go into practice, go into the arena. So as soon as I walk into the arena, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, Wesley Matthews, Marcus Camby, they're just staring at me. Marcus Camby might not have been on the team, but it was Wesley Matthews, LaMarcus, Nicholas Batum just staring at me. And I'm already feeling bad. I'm like, dang, I got to get in touch with Mo. So I go to LaMarcus. He was like, bro, why did you do that? I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I was, I didn't do my job. I didn't vet it, man. I'm sorry. And LaMarcus told me something too. He was like, bro, you can't do that because what if it does end up happening? It's like you spoken into existence. And I was like, oh man, like I'm already feeling bad. So I'm trying to reach out to Mo to apologize. I'm trying to reach out to Mo. He's not responding, nothing. I think I text him, give me a call when you get a chance, nothing. So a week later, Blazers on the road trip. He was gone the entire road trip. So they finally get home. And they get home, and I see Mo Williams walk into the locker room. It's the home game now. So I'm like, all right, it's my chance. I got to go apologize in person. And, everybody in media, they knew what happened. And so, everybody's in the locker room. They want to see what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So I go in the locker room, and I run to Mo, and it ain't nothing you can say. Like, I had to own it. I'm like, bro, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, man. I did this, and I did this, and I told him the whole thing. Bro, I am so sorry. I would not do that again ever. I was just very apologetic. And he listened to me, and he was like, bro, you good. You good, bro. I appreciate that. You good. And he dapped me up, gave me a hug, and that was it. Bro, he had every right to cuss me out as long as he wanted. He had every right. He didn't do that at all. And me and him became so tight after that. And then a few years later, I was covering the Cavs. he ended up getting traded or signing with the Cavs. And we were tight there as well. And now I got to get down there to Jackson. He's a head coach of Jackson State University out there. I got to go check him out. I promise I'll do that. But we were so tight after that, man. But the moral of that story was, like, when I got that tip, when somebody told me what had happened, the only thing I should have reported at the time was sources say that Mo Williams has left town and he will not be left town due to family reasons, and he will not play in tomorrow's game. That was the news. That should have been it. I shouldn't have been reporting on someone passing, because what if I'm not TMZ? What if, and I'm pretty sure, like, I'm just thinking about it now, like, there could have been family members who saw my tweet and they're looking at that. What? She passed? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? So that was so disastrous for me. So disastrous for me. And it could have been so much more worse had Mo Williams treated me like I deserved to be treated at that time. So that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned on how to make sure I vet stories. Like some sources, when you're reporting, some sources should be used as leads, a lead to where you're going to follow, get more corroborating evidence, corroborating sources. And that was one of my biggest lessons I had to learn the hard way.
Well, that's a big one, man. But, everybody needs to go through moments like that in their career, I guess. We'll wrap up with a little quick fire, Kirk. We got to wrap this up now. I don't want to take too much of your time. So what's your bold Big 3 prediction?
I think, my bold Big 3 prediction. God,
next season.
I think Dallas. Oh, for the next series, or for
the next one?
Final four, huh? I think LA will be upset. That's what Dwight Howard, Jordan Crawford, and those guys. I think we'll see an upset.
Big prediction for the NBA?
I'll say this. I think the Lakers make it to the Western Conference Finals.
Music to the ears of a lot of fans out there. Who's the hardest working player you've covered?
LeBron.
And most memorable press conference moment you've been a part of?
Ooh, I've been a part of a lot. I would have to say LeBron again, is because he lightweight threw his coach under the bus at this one time during the playoffs, 2016 or whatever. He basically let everyone know in his press conference how he drew up the play that ended up being what happened was David Blatt was the head coach at the time, and LeBron in the game, he hit a game-winning jumper. And so obviously as media members, we're thinking, okay, that was the play that was drew up. Great play by the coach, and LeBron executed. And so David Blatt goes up first and he's talking about that play. Like, yeah, that was a good play. That was, we did the right thing, and LeBron executed. And then LeBron came on a press conference and said, that play, which led to me hitting the game-winning shot? Yeah, coach tried to draw something else up that didn't involve me, and I killed it. Instead, we're doing this. and so we were just like, whoa. We were just flabbergasted that he admitted that. Like, he brought that to the forefront. He let it be known that play wasn't supposed to be for him. He was actually supposed to. It was like 0.5 of a second left, and David Blatt called for LeBron to take the ball out. Well, with that much time left, you take the ball out, you're not getting the ball back. And so LeBron was like, I'm not taking the ball out. That ball is coming to me. And so we didn't know that and David Blatt didn't give us that information. But LeBron felt it was necessary and needed to let everybody know that play that y'all praised him for, that wasn't the play he tried to call. That was pretty memorable right there.
Wow. What's one friendship that you've seen that surprised you?
Dame, me and Dame are really close. Damian Lillard, like that's like a little brother to me.
Covered
Covered him,
player.
yeah. That's my guy. That's my guy. Was in his wedding. Um, been around him through ups and downs, man, through career, personal stuff, and things like that. You don't anticipate relationships blossoming to that level. For the most part, these are all working relationships, but there have been some guys who would be brothers for me for the rest of my life, and Damian Lillard is one of them.
Who's the
Chris
most
Paul
open?
as well. Chris Paul, I got to put Chris Paul.
Who's the most open and candid player you've interviewed?
Open and candid, I will say Kevin Durant. Like Kevin Durant, he'll let it be known. You might not like what he's saying, but he's going to keep it real. And I remember, check this out. I don't know if I should bring this up, but I'll keep it vague. But when he was with Golden State, it's stupid now, but I can't remember if it was Twitter or Instagram, but he had accidentally liked something. And you know how social media people, they can find out what you liked on social media or whatever. But what he had liked was something that was negative on Russell Westbrook. And you got to remember when they had a little feud back in the day because they had just left OKC, went to Golden State. And so people found out that he liked a post that was a negative post about Westbrook. So social media is going crazy. So he has to address this. And I remember talking to him about this. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Because I couldn't believe, this became a story. KD liked this, whatever, this post. And I remember telling him, I'm like, bro, man, just say it was somebody else. Golly, so what? Just say just say. People will believe that somebody else is running KD stuff, or they will believe that he has other people who may post things from time to time. I'll say, just say, man, golly, this. I just thought it was dumb. And KD was like, nah, I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it and be like, hey, I didn't mean to like it, but I did. That was me. And so that was one of the craziest things I've seen. And I say that story just to illustrate just how open he is and how he's willing to say things that people might not, they get on him, talk about he doesn't have a championship DNA. And he'll tell you, man, what are you talking about? I worked my butt off. He'll just say things that a lot of fans probably don't want to hear, or they don't think a championship player should look at things this way. He has his own viewpoint on things. He is a champion. He's a 2-time Finals MVP as well.
What's the most creative way you've ever gotten a story?
One of the most creative ways I'm not going to name this player, but I actually got on an airplane, a private jet, with a player. Lightweight snuck on that private jet. And to get a certain story that I needed. I knew this player. It was a story that I needed at the time. I knew where this player was at in the country. And so I finagled my way to get in this certain area to where his private jet was to take off at a certain time. I got some information to tell me what time it was to take off. And I'm cool with this player, but this player was adamant that he did not want to talk to any media for a 2-month span. It was during the off season. He knew media were trying to get to him for this particular story. So I was able to get on this private jet of this player. And so as soon as the player walks into his private jet, he sees me sit there, front row. And all he could do was laugh. And he was like, bro, he was going to this obscure city. He was like, where this plane is going. This plane is going to this obscure city. And it would be very difficult for me to get out of this city. He's basically saying, you're going to a dead end. You really gonna stay on this plane? And I told him I'm committed to staying on this plane. I need this story. all he could do was laugh. And he gave me everything I needed on that play. That play ride, man. That was probably the most obscure place I was able to get a story.
Chris, respect. Your love for the game is infectious, man. It's inspiring as well. Very intrigued to see the work you continue to do with the Big Three as well. We'll be covering it. We'll be there. So it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate your time.
Hey, man, thank you for taking the time out, brother. Really appreciate it.